Okay, so just stick to it. Hey, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, the original holistic pet health coach, and with me today is Wilma Shaw, one of our certified holistic pet health coaches, and Wilma is also a human health coach. And I'm sorry, Wilma, I forget what the BCHN is, but I know. Remind me what that is, so we can get you right here.
Board certified in holistic nutrition. It's bitchin'.
Yeah, because you think that nutrition has absolutely no impact on health, right?
Not at all. Eat whatever you want.
No. Yeah, and right on. So as folks are kind of jumping in here, just let us know where you're coming in from. Lisa, good to see you again. And Wilma, you've graduated, I think, in July. My memory gets sketchy. Is that pretty close to right? Or
I think it was earlier. I think it was closer to January, February. I think I was the third or fourth person to graduate.
Cool. Yeah, that's it. My memory gets a little small sometimes, but yeah, I mean, and you flew through the material, but that was kind of a test, was to see how good is this material compared to what health coaches have been taught, and I think what you said was like pretty decent, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to add to that, because what I found happily is that your material really got to the foundation of what causes so many illnesses and inflammation in our pets. And that's the same thing that I learned in holistic nutrition. You know, it's about the gut. A lot of times it's about the diet and the environment. And so that's why I was able to fly through it so quickly, is because I have a lot of that foundation, but you included that material in there. And I think I also told you the whole traditional Chinese, the veterinary medicine was what was so new to me. And I'm, obviously I'm not an expert in it. Like, I feel like I'm pretty good with some of the other stuff, but that is just a big extra. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and that's definitely the thing that makes everybody's heads hurt, for sure. Mm-hmm. And we got some folks dropping in. So Audrey is currently enrolled in the class. So welcome, Audrey. Good to see you.
Awesome.
Maggie is one of our graduated coaches. So she's got a wicked sense of humor and her own set of brilliance. Tonka's journey is Naja, and she's actually going to be starting here pretty quickly as soon as we can get her the bits and pieces. And Paris is jumping in. So
wow.
Right on. So yeah, so we're filling up the room, which is fantastic. But so it was really cool getting that feedback from you and from Leah as well. But I think you came to this because you had so much frustration around what you were being told about your own dog, Gracie, and to kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I've had lots of cats and dogs over the years, and I was always just the vet, the vaccines, the kibble, up until about when I decided to go into nutrition, and I had my beloved Swirls, my kitty at that time. And she was no longer able to jump on the bed or jump on the sofa. And I took her into the vet, and the vet's like, well, there's no arthritis. I don't think there's joint pain. I don't, and I just happened to turn to her and say, what if I put her on the kind of diet I'm on now? Because I had learned about, at that point, going grain-free. I was trying to lose some stubborn weight, right? And she actually said, oh, that's a good idea. And I said, okay, well, then I'm not going to take the steroids or whatever it is that you're offering. I'm going to go home. I'm going to change. And I changed her diet. I actually started feeding her raw, and she loved it. And within probably a few weeks, she was jumping on the bed again. And that was that. And so, I wish I had known that before, right? Obviously, but, know more, do better. Right? When you know more. And then we started fostering just recently. And so this is after I've already, been in my human nutrition business for a while. And I know a little bit more about cats and dogs. And then, of course, after taking your course, I'm like, duh, of course it's so similar, right? I mean, I started looking at like all the chronic illnesses. Now, fortunately, we work with Doggone Seattle here in the Seattle area, and they get a lot of dogs from Texas and California and Hawaii at times, right? And they do pretty good. They actually work with some of the better pet stores around here, which is nice. So as far as kibble goes, it's not terrible. But like, for example, with Gracie, we got her before 8 weeks old. She was all vaccinated with probably, 6 different vaccines. And I would prefer to wait a little longer to make sure the immune system can actually kick in properly. And fortunately, though, she wasn't spay yet. And so after taking your course, I learned a lot about spaying and neutering, and I made the choice to work with them to wait a little while and then get that ovary sparing spay. And so that's what we chose to do with Gracie to keep her hormones intact. There's a lot. I think when I was still working, I was still in the course, I think that's when Gracie had that terrible hotspot. I mean, a really, really bad one. And we did have to take her to the vet because it was just all infected and she was in so much pain. And so from there, I learned when I start seeing the hair diminishing, or something going on, to pay a little closer attention and deal with it right away. And that's that. I did a little video on it because I was actually kind of surprised myself that she started developing this, losing some hair on her tail and also these bumps on her forehead. It's just like what she does. It's how she expresses toxicity or sensitivities. And I was messing around with changing diet. That's what we always, changing food, the proteins, the vegetables, everything, supplements, the oils, and nothing was really changing. And then I used some muscle testing with her to ask, hey, is this about food? And the answer came back, no. Now, I didn't go any further than that. I just kind of knew it's her bed. It's this beautiful cave bed that she loves. And we took that away. And I swear to God, 3 days later, like almost all the bumps are gone. The hair is coming back on the tail. She's not itching as much. You can feel it in her fur. It's just softer. And and that's the kind of thing that I think, if I hadn't taken this course, I would have been at the vet going, what's going on with her?
Right, getting the steroids or getting the whatever.
Steroids, $200 later for the vet visit. And then and then damaging her gut and her biome and all that with and not getting to the root of the problem.
Exactly. And then the symptoms come back because she's still snuggled up in that bed that she loves. So did you find a suitable replacement for her?
Yeah, it's in between my husband and I on our bed.
Perfect. I'm sure she's delighted. And I just gotta say hello to Ilsa Dora because she's been following me for a lot of years, and we did some consultations together. But Ilsa had the most long-lived cats I've ever met. I think my cat Romy got to 24, but Ilsa, I don't know what you were doing right, but you did a lot of it right, and I think we made it better. So very glad to see you. But that's so amazing, right? Because we think, oh, it's the food, or oh, it's the toxic this, or and sometimes it's the simple things in front of us that we forgot to say, okay, this is a problem. So that's kind of part of what health coaches, whether they're for you, the human, or for your pet, do. They start thinking through, well, is it food? Is it because there's a list of things. Is it environmental toxins? Is it pesticides? Is it poor water? Is it blah, blah, blah? And that's really it, is that these are the folks that can help you walk through all the possibilities. And that's part of what the whole thorough intake or history taking session is about too. Sometimes when you're telling the story, you say something that that just is like, oh, and that's when it all started, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the amazing thing, is that you can pick up on, people that are trained in this can pick up on the little piece from the story and go from there. And Sherilyn's asking, what about the bed was the problem?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because is it the chemicals in, the bed? I washed it several times. Is it the fact that it's a cave bed and it's more enclosed, so she's just kind of stewing in the environment all night? Is it the actual material? That I do not know, but I could find out. I could try some more muscle testing to find out. I was just so relieved. I was just like, oh my God, kiss,
But
kiss, kiss,
stopped.
kiss. I'm so glad. But Dr. Ruth, I have to admit that, like, when I first saw that, if I had worked with a pet health coach myself, I probably we would have figured it out sooner, because just like being your own doctor, your own nurse, I think we just kind of miss the obvious sometimes. And so in hindsight, again, I think I would like go to one of my colleagues and just say, and have them help me, because I really do think that they would see things more clear. It's just hard when you're right in the middle of it.
It is, because you lose your objectivity and you lose that ability to keep asking questions that get down to the root of the problem. And I totally get it. I mean, I've been managing a lot of my own health issues for a long time, and it's finally like, I need somebody to help me. And I'm in this mastermind group with all these really fabulous holistic doctors and alt med doctors. And so it's like, okay, Amy Horniman, the thyroid fixer. Amy, help me out here. And she did, and she still is. So it's really, that's it. When you need help and you can't see your way out of the hole, and the vet's telling you things like, I don't know, everything looks good on the blood work. So it's like, when we had the mentors call this Monday, Michael was talking about a dog that just was painful and was doing agility and some other pretty active things. And then the pet parent took the dog to the vet, no arthritis, no disc disease, nothing going on. And so Michael does massage therapy as well. And he's describing to me where the trigger points are. And I'm like, oh. So I, Googled fibromyalgia trigger points. I'm like, you mean like this? And he's like, dang. You mean this dog has fibromyalgia? I'm like, yeah. And the other things he was telling me was like inflammation and weight gain for no reason, fine one day, really terrible the next, gets cranky before mealtime. It's like, okay, right on. So then that totally changed how he's going to approach supporting this dog, because the massage helps, but then it comes back. So that was really cool. Getting an outside opinion really helps. So
I just want to say that's even a benefit, an extra benefit being in the program. And I honestly didn't know how much I would appreciate this until now, but having you to meet with weekly to bounce things, as well as the other colleagues. So that's just a real benefit.
Right on. And it's crazy too, because you all are not getting cases like, oh, just simple change the diet and everything gets better. Some of them you are, some of the folks you're working with are, but others are like, oh my God, my dog has this and this and this and this and this, and my vet hasn't been able to help me. I've gone to see other holistic vets and they haven't been able to help me. What do I do? And so this is the thing that is really super cool and makes me so proud of you all, is that you're helping these people walk through these extremely complicated problems and get the results that they've not been able to get elsewhere. So that is truly the biggest honor of my life.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's all good stuff.
That's great.
But
It's a win-win.
yeah, it is good. It is win-win. It makes me know, it makes me keep going, because this has definitely been an interesting journey getting here. So
Mhm.
one of the things you mentioned is that you do a lot of work with rescue in your area, and I think I've been to that rescue group in Seattle. It's like right next to a really
Mm.
nice dog pet store. Am I remembering that correctly?
No, it's
Maybe
not
not.
close. It's out kind of in the boonies a bit, the actual rescue.
Right on. Okay.
Doggone
But you're
Seattle.
doing a lot of work with rescue, and so where do you see coaches fitting in to support rescue groups and
Oh
dogs and
my
cats that
god.
are in rescue, more importantly?
Oh my gosh. So fitting in, okay, so this is a complicated situation. It's kind of like having a human nutrition working with a dietitian that may not be on the same page, where they have their own solutions and their own way of doing things. And so with a rescue, obviously they're getting young and they're getting older dogs, and some of them are in serious trouble. And so one of the things is they're most of these dogs' guts are just totally inflamed, right? They've been treated with lots of antibiotics. They've been under extreme stress, not just with the travel, but with their life situation, being in kennels. So the environment is not great. You know, I have to say also they're always fully vaccinated, which defining what fully is, it may be over-vaccinated in some cases. And so, you know, where we have real opportunity is to help educate all of these new, not just the pet parents, but the fosters, to help recognize that, hey, what's going on is it's not just, you don't have to say, oh, well, they're just upset, or this is just, you know, a break-in period. We can actually help them by upping their food quality a little bit, you know, paying attention, giving them a little variety, you know, making sure they're drinking clean water, making sure they're not subjected to a lot of environmental toxins, things like that. There's so much that we can do to help the fosters get these pets in better shape, and then carry that on to the new pet parent. But as you probably know, the issue is that the food is all donated, right? They have negotiations with different pet stores. And like I said, fortunately, they work with some really nice, we have some really nice pet stores here in Seattle. But, you know, they're not about to levy, let's say, on their fosters a requirement to cook for their pets, right? But I believe as pet coaches, if we could show them the benefit of providing, especially for those like new fosters, a cooked meal where we have total control of what's going in and what we're taking out to see how they're thriving, I think we can get them there, right? Because how we can
Right
provide the
on.
food, right? And then they can do the cooking. But the other thing is, to me, the spaying, I think we have like a lot of education that we can do. Spaying early that's just something that rescues, some very few rescues are not doing that at this point, but obviously the mission of the rescue is to stop populating with dogs. So I totally get, you know, the cats and dogs, why they're doing this. But again, I think if we could find fosters that are willing, and pet parents that are willing to just, if they're able to make a different choice, it's all about education, Dr. Ruth. It's all about education, and
Exactly.
not, and not, what's the word I'm trying to, like, making these other organizations feel like what they're doing is wrong, right? Because they're doing the best they can with what they can, and we are here to help up level. And it's like what you said, if all we can do is get Normandy vegetables from Costco and have them add, you know, a scoop or so to their kibble, it's a win, right? It's a step in
Right
the
on.
right direction. So And I do suggest that at times. I mean, if that's what somebody's willing to do, it's a good thing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positive we can add, but it's just tricky because it's taking rescues out of their comfort zone, and it's definitely putting a little more on their fosters and their pet parents.
Right on. And it's a tough thing, but I mean, to that end, you started creating a community for pet wellness. And I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, that was part of your goal. Is if you're a new pet foster, this is where you can come to learn about how you can do better.
Yeah.
Hopefully that came through. I think I paused a little bit, but that was that. Am I remembering that correctly? That was part of your goal with this community.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gracie and Friends, now calling a Holistic Pet Health, just because it's shorter. But yeah, it's a new like community club, and it's really for any dog and or cat parent that of like minds, right? That wants to understand foundationally what's going on with their pet. But that is something that I am working on putting together and offer to the rescue, at least the one rescue that I'm working with, to help get specifically puppies that are in foster on the right direction, just because that's a little easier for right now. So I am totally excited about that, because I have been working one-on-one with people, the humans and now pets, since I graduated. And I know we can help pets one at a time, right? But I love groups. Like, I love being able to help more than one pet at a time. And the other thing is, in a community like you have in your Facebook group, you see that there are other people that also have like excellent experience and information to add to a situation. So yeah, so Gracie and Friends is it's a new business. It's going to be targeted towards like the new puppies for foster, but then any dog and cat for somebody who really wants to get like to the bottom of what's going on, to help, like is it Elsie, the one with the longest living cats? Like, you don't do that by feeding them kibble all their life. I don't, at least not healthy, long living cats, right? So
unless they're just genetic freaks. Yeah. So that was the thing. Ilsa, I mean, she got her kitties Stanley to 18 and Larry to 19 and a half. And that's the thing, is every time Ilsa learned something better, she did better. But that's the whole thing, is getting the information so that you can do better. And that's part of what the whole group is about, and that's the thing. When we were chatting about this before, it's just insane to me that we opened this group up in mid-August, with 385 people. We renamed it to Holistic Pet Health. And now here, December 7th, there's 25,500 people that have joined this group. And I think what that means is that people know there's a better way. They just don't know where to find it. And that's part of why we did this group, because it is just so necessary. And Sherilyn, you're absolutely right. I think you're from the Feline Fairies in St. Augustine. I love the name of your rescue group, but it's just so critical to do the very best you can with food for these guys and support their guts, because otherwise we're going to have a litany of issues going on. So having said all of that, part of what I want to do is jump over to the group and see if we can answer a few questions. Let me see if I'm smart enough to do this today.
Can I say something about the
of course you can.
Just so before, and let me just give you a little story about this. So fortunately, before we went on our last camping trip, I had this little handout here with, like a pet first responder first aid kit. And I had actually gone through it and put together our first aid kit. Yeah, and
right
Gracie's. And while we were out, we were in high desert and we were on a hike in the middle of the day, no shade. Dogs are closer to the hot earth than we are. They got these bellies that are just like hovering over it, absorbing all the heat. And honestly, because I knew like about first aid for the dog, I recognized pretty quickly some signs that she was getting overheated that I may have missed if I hadn't. And so little things, I mean, like having a cloth with enough water so that you can like wrap a cool cloth around their head and neck or wipe them down. And then so that was just I was just so grateful that we had seen that. We stopped immediately, by the way, and headed back. but it was actually, it was actually a little scary. But there are some things like when you make your own kit, all the bandages, the scissors, like that's all the same, right? I put together some eye wash specifically for her, just in case, like pre-made in a little squirty bottle. I took a little thing of hydrogen peroxide just in case she got something, where I needed to make her vomit. And I just put like the right amount in it for her weight so that I wouldn't have to worry about what was the right amount at the time. The other thing we always carried with us was like a big rope, because it's the kind of thing I worried too much, but it's like, if she goes over the edge, I want to be able to get her back. Activated charcoal is something, again, for whatever she might get into. I think, you've also talked about Benadryl. That's just something, great to have on hand for immediate use. And those mushers, like,
right on.
They're like an ointment basically to put on paws. Worked really well. And then there's I think it's called Third Rock Essentials, I think is the name of it. They make something similar to Nutrisporin, but it's food grade. And so if there's, so I think it uses maybe silver, instead of an antibiotic specifically, but they can lick it, and it's not going to hurt them. And so if they do get an owie on the way, something like a Nutrisporin is really helpful.
Sweet.
But so I guess what I really want to say is make a first aid kit for your dog or cat where you're going.
Amen. Yeah, when we started hiking out west, I can't remember where it was. It was somewhere in Arizona, maybe even in Sedona. I saw a sign that said, "Be prepared to rescue yourself." And I was like, oh, okay. Because, you were out in a remote area. We were out moving around in remote areas. And so I think it really is it. We tend to wait for things to happen before we prepare for them, and stuff just does happen. Yeah. So good on you for putting that together. So that's awesome. And I did drop Wilma's website in here too, so you can check that out. And Missy had a question. And so when switching over from kibble, following the directions on the bag, how much food to feed when you start making their food? And really, Missy, it depends. What I would do is start with at least 25% of new home cooked food into the kibble that they're accustomed to eating, and then taking somewhere between 7 days to 14 days to really transition over completely. And that way you're not going to have any issues in terms of really just having blowout diarrhea or something horrified. And right on. And so Beth is in that too. She's been giving her dog walking clients that hike little natural prepared for anything bags or bug out bags. So good on you, Beth.
Nice. Cool. Hey, Dr. Ruth, I wanted to add to that first question, because I'm thinking maybe she's also asking like how much food to feed. And right on. I remember asking you that very question, and I think your response to me, and it was difficult because it was just start with the same amount. So if you're feeding 2 cups of kibble, give like about 2 cups. And that's kind of when I'm talking to my clients now, is you just start there. But here's the beauty of it. You just pay attention. Are they, how they eat, and what they're looking like. So you start feeding them. And if it's not enough, you don't necessarily have to add more food right then. You could add, like, I remember you told me, some avocado possibly, or a little coconut oil if that's good for them, but maybe a little extra fat to get some extra calories. But the thing is, with Gracie, it changes, right? I mean, she's more active sometimes than others. It's summer, it's winter. And sometimes it's like, oh, look, we'll say, let me see her ribs a little, let's give her a little something extra, right? But you want them to have a waist. But yeah, so starting kind of, even though kibble is so compressed, compacted, just kind of starting around there is a good place to start.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. And it varies by the amount of activity they're doing. So if you are out hiking like a fool one weekend, then you may have to really maybe even double the amount that they're eating. So right on. Yeah. So let's see, let's hop over here for a few minutes and check a few things out. So Jane is asking, who has a holistic vet consultation online? And Jane, this is part of what this group is about, is to help connect you with these incredibly intelligent women and the very talented Mr. Michael Daly, who can help guide you through this process. Because the sad thing is that there's not a ton of veterinarians out there that are able to do consultations online, and so many veterinarians are backed up. So Hannah and Isa, our marvelous team in the working in the back end with us, dropped a link in there where you can go to our page and check it out. So Alicia, same thing. If you've got nothing coming up in your area, the coaches work with you, and then we meet every Monday to go over cases that they're having difficulty with. But this is exactly what they are trained to do, is to help them, help you understand how to cook. So for instance, here's Wilma's link in our page on Shopify. You'll see that there are other coaches listed there as well. But that's the whole thing, is to get you connected with people that can help you walk through this journey. Because if you've got a health problem that's been going on for a while, it's not going to get solved in one phone call. So that's exactly what this page is about, is to get you information, to get you started, and then get you on the road to figuring out an overall plan for health. So Lisa's asking about kitties with upper respiratory infections. So antibiotics, steroid shot, eye medicines. Kitties are sneezing and eyes watering, and she's wondering what we can do to help improve that healing process, and what's going on. So Wilma, if you've got some basic thoughts on that, go for it.
They are not, am I seeing they are not outdoor kitties? That's hard to see.
They're sort of indoor, outdoor. So they do go outside.
Yeah. It's just like, and here's where it sounds kind of silly, but we always go back to the foundations. And so when people are asking questions about a specific symptom, they have this issue, it's not as easy to just answer and say, do X, Y, Z, because in that intake, you find out so much more. Like, what are you feeding them? How old are they? When did this start? Was there something that triggered it? So without knowing all of that, I would say at this point to work on healing the gut. I mean, that's just because that's a basic. With inflammation, it sounds like, I mean, with upper respiratory, there is some inflammation. Sounds like the antibiotics aren't making it go away. Their eyes are also bothered. So maybe there's some food sensitivity, or like Gracie, some environmental sensitivity that's going on. So it's about finding, removing whatever is causing the issue while you're working on healing the gut and boosting the immune system.
Right on. And the other thing that's really interesting for cats, well, it's not interesting, it's not fun when you're experiencing it, but many of these guys have chronic herpes virus infections or calicivirus infections. And so that's where using a lysine type product can be super helpful. And there's Inicil, I think, is the product name that's flavored. So there's some possibility of the cat actually agreeing that it's a good idea. But everything that Wilma said is exactly right. And then everything that the vet was sort of offering will palliate symptoms, but it's not going to get them better. And ultimately they come back. And now that you've had a round of antibiotics on board, things tend to get worse.
Yeah. So, and Dr. Ruth, I just want to say, I know that we all that are not actually vets, we say we're not a vet. We're not replacing your vet. So, but even when people like in your Facebook group are saying they're looking for a holistic vet, there's nothing wrong with starting with us, because I tell you, one of the things that I promise in my group is you're going to save money on not having to go to the vet so often. So maybe that person's in a situation where they don't really need to see a vet, or maybe together we decide that, yes, a vet is the next step. But let me talk to Dr. Ruth first, because she is
right on. Well, and that's exactly it. And like this person with her kitty that's got pneumonia, it's tough. I mean, so this is an ongoing problem. So she's got pneumonia, and it's like, that's a really gnarly infection and makes you feel really crappy. And so azithromycin is an antibiotic that tends to be quite helpful. But here's the deal. This kitty's had 2 other rounds of antibiotics since she was 6, and she's been off kibble for a couple of months. So this is one of those deals where if you had something on hand, like Megaspore is my favorite probiotic, because in people, it's been shown to protect the microbiome from the effects of antibiotics. And so that's something I would start, and along with the antibiotics, and get that under control, and then find somebody to help you get to the root cause of what's going on, because that's so frustrating. And I'm sure that your kitty feels horrible. As an adult, I started developing asthma every time I had a respiratory infection. That is miserable. And I know these kitties feel dreadful. So that's the first thing, is that you need to, take care of the emergency situation, but then help find somebody to get you the long range plan to help prevent any other issues. And I love this comment. There's many holistic. That's unfortunately, and that's the problem. I mean, we're all trying to do our best, and sometimes some of us do things that sound good but don't work so well. So, and Lisa's asking about, that's pretty funny. I haven't either, but yeah. So, I mean, again, Lisa, this is an incredibly complex disease process, and it is a bear to get under control. And in my mind, if all we can do is get the dosages down, or get her down to 1 drug, I think that's a real win. But again, you got to start somewhere. And we've had some pets that we're able to get them off of meds, but you really got to start digging. And I think one of the best places. Have you?
I think so. Pretty sure.
Oh, cool.
I think.
So right on. So that's the thing. I mean, the best. That's okay. The best place to start is getting a food sensitivity test so you know what's out there, what's the issue. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna, and that's the thing. PLE, protein losing enteropathy or lymphangiectasia, whatever you're going to call it, whatever name gets slapped on it, didn't start overnight, and it's not going to go away overnight too. So it's one of those deals we got to do in and dig in, do a little better and a little better and a little better and a little better, and use all the things that we can. So
right,
we got somebody asking. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that sadly, one of the things that happens is when, some vets, faux vets or whatever, they offer prescription diets and they offer these types of, very limited foods that also don't offer the type of nutrition that is really necessary for our pets to get better. And just because they're prescription doesn't mean that they're in line with what that pet needs to really be nourished. So yeah.
And that's the other tough thing, is that a lot of times there's not a lot of nourishment going on in those foods. So it's tough. So, and then this person, she's got a pup that's shaking his head, biting his tail, licking his paws after switching to Purina, from Purina to only Natural Pet. And I'm not sure what that is. And then now to Canaday and all this stuff. So what would you say? Where would you start?
Oof. Yeah. So, I mean, shaking the head and biting his tail, he's definitely having a reaction. It could be like a yeasty ear, possibly some infection in the ears. I'm surprised switching from Purina to only Natural Pet. Again, I mean, Natural Pet isn't terrible. I don't think, but what was the difference? Were there different proteins? Were there different additives? Are they both like a kibble? The Keto C is the bath and Apoquel.
I think that's ketoconazole probably in the shampoo.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And again, Apoquel is just, I would say it's the majority of clients I get are people who want to get their pets off Apoquel, because that is the solution that's given to them by the vet. And like Dr. Ruth was saying, it works, right? Because it masks the symptoms in a sense, but it's not addressing the fundamental problem. And so So I guess, I would want to know more about what changed in that food, and also have a look in the ears, see what's going on in there, and start looking at trying probably a different protein, and go very slowly. And like you said, the Glacier Peaks test, start there.
I think that's going to be the best place to start. And that's the thing, is that a lot of times we're aware that there's food sensitivities and we change food, not really understanding that maybe we're using a new bag of food, but maybe we're not really changing away from the thing that's creating the irritation. So right on. Let's see what else we got here.
People have lots of questions, and I don't think,
and that's
one
awesome.
of the things I was noticing in the group is, I think I answered a question with, "You're not going to like this, but it depends." I feel like a lawyer, right? Because it really does depend. I mean, we're not offering a silver, like, what is it, a magic pill, right? We're actually offering to get to the roots of what's going on.
Right on. And that's the whole thing, is that conventional medicine has shown us that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. And that's part of what President Obama was trying to get to, was to improve personalized medical initiatives, and that sort of went by the wayside. So, yeah, and so Sherilyn, to answer your question, yes, Megaspore is a human product, but frankly, I find that it works really well. They do have a pet product called Phytospore, but it has beef liver flavoring. And while that's great, if your dog or cat is not sensitive to beef, it can create problems. And frankly, I just find that this one works better. So we've been using it. I've been using it for probably 7 years, and I find it to be superior to most of the probiotics that you're going to run across out there. And
it was a favorite human probiotic for us, and so it was easy to to start using it for our pups.
Right.
Just start slow.
Right on. And just start slow. So where do you find the link to set up the appointment? I think we've got it dropped in here somewhere. Maybe my able staff can drop that in again, but it's, if you head over to the website, drruthroberts.com, and then click the link up at the top that says consultation, you will find everybody's links there. And I think we're getting close to time. The one thing I do want to say to you as well is if you've got any interest in finding out more about the coaching program, I'm doing a webinar, sorry, this one's about the cancer stuff, but at any rate, I'm doing a webinar the 12th of December, so in a couple of days here, and that's at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if I saw it up here somewhere, there it is, click this link and go register for it. We'll send you some information on the webinar. You can learn more about it. Hopefully we'll have some of our coaches there to talk a little bit more about it. And there's our consultation page link for you again. Wilma, any parting words of wisdom?
Oh gosh, I didn't think of any. So I would say I'm so pleased that there are so many people that are like looking for holistic support for their pets. That just means the world to me. I think it's hard to get out of the paradigm of looking for something to resolve symptoms versus looking for truly getting at the root of what is causing this issue. So that's just something that's going to take time because we've been kind of coached in the past to just take a pill, or just do this and it'll be better. So, I say to people, be patient and know that you're on the right track by simply asking the questions. And when it comes to pet health coaching, just like with people nutrition, functional nutrition coaching, there can't be too many of us, right? Whether
Amen
we're just helping our own pets and our friends or our family or making an amazing business out of it, we are needed so drastically. Like our pets are so sick out there. So there can't be too many of us.
Amen to that. That is for sure. So, the statistics are 90 million dogs in the U.S., 60 million cats in the U.S., 78,000 veterinarians, 1,500 members of the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association.
Do the math.
It's bad. It's ugly math. And the Mars study is predicting that. So Mars, if you don't know, actually owns 40% of veterinary medicine in the U.S. They are predicting a shortage of 24,000 veterinarians in the U.S. by the year 2030. We are graduating 2,500 veterinarians a year with no plans to ramp that up. And so my big, hairy, audacious goal is within 5 years to be graduating and certifying as many holistic pet health coaches as veterinarians are being graduated. So
Awesome.
You all join the revolution because we have got to do this now. It's getting ugly out there. We got to make these changes. So Wilma, thank you so much for joining. And everybody, thanks for hanging out. This has been a ball, and we will see you next week.